Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the World Cybersecurity Summit. And right now we're moving to our next session, which is going to be a keynote on cybersecurity in banking. And we're joined by Hassan Moosa, the Chief Executive Officer, Oman Banks Association, Sultanate of Oman. Well, Mr. Ali has 24 years of experience in banking as well as the private commercial sector. He's somebody who's held various senior positions in the past and joins the association from the Oman Arab Bank, where he held the position of the Chief Information Officer. Thank you so much, Mr. Moosa, for joining us today and being a part of the World Cybersecurity Summit, Oman. With this, I'd now like to pass the stage and screen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Good morning, everyone. It is indeed an honor to be here today. I'd like to thank the organizers and all of you for taking part in this exciting event. I'd like to cover a few important matters on cybersecurity. So if I may share my screen. So today's agenda in this session would be would look at cyber risk, recent incidents around the world, would look at specifically incidents on targeting financial institutions during last year. We'll take a case study of the Central Bank of Bangladesh, which happened a few years back, around 5 years back. We'll look at security architecture in terms of active defense, and also we'll cover social engineering and very quickly some tips on how to protect yourself. So what we've seen in the last few years in terms of cyber threats, those threats were initiated by hackers. Sometimes those hackers do it for fun, sometimes for money. And this has shifted now to notorious cyber gangs. Those gangs are invisible, but also, as we will see in the case study, those invisible gangs work with real gangs, classic gangs, and this creates a massive new type of threat that we need all of us to work against. So cyber risk is one of the biggest challenges and risks facing the world, which is cyber threat. Cyber crime is the new norm. In terms of banks are associated with trust, keeping your money safe. That's the fundamental of banking. How will this be done in the face of the new threats? So in terms of cybersecurity for banking sector, for financial institution, is a key for the survival of the financial order. So cybersecurity is key to the survival of the financial order. The Bank of International Settlement, Bulletin 37, which was issued in January 2021, talks specifically about various threats targeting the financial world. And this graph is an example where you'll see exponential growth in data breach, and this is the source is International Monetary Fund. Let us look at some incidents. These incidents are around the world, and I'm talking recent in terms of last month. So these are a few examples that happened last month in February, and this is according to IT governance site. 2.3 billion records across the world were compromised in 1 month, only in 1 month. And some of those victims are big entertainment companies in the US, chat service company in Iran, delivery such as Aramex or DHL, a local delivery company in Pakistan, a well-reputable mobile manufacturer in China, and a big telecom operator in Argentina. These were the largest victims last month only in terms of data breaches and compromises. What is interesting also in the last year or so is that the healthcare databases and systems have increased attacks. So the World Health Organization emails were compromised. The entire corporate email system was compromised. The Oxford University lab where COVID-19 data is held was compromised. The same with Pfizer Pharmaceutical, the COVID-19 specifically lab was compromised. And this goes across the world in terms of labs, hospitals, and medical databases. So there is a new shift by the hackers to actually gain information for illegal use by targeting healthcare systems, and specifically what relates to COVID-19. If we look at the financial institutions in specific during 2020, so during the last year, there were many attacks, and these are a few examples of such attacks. These are the biggest victims, if you like, or the well-known victims of last year's cyber attacks. 15,000 cards replaced by Greek banks. Those cards were credit and debit card used by a holiday operator. That holiday operator was compromised, and therefore the banks had to replace those cards. This Vizom banking malware attacked a number of Brazilian banks. Denial of service attacks on a number of Hungarian banks at the same time happened last year. Russian and Chilean banks ransomware. CIH Morocco bank, CIH, which is the Credit Immobilier bank, had actually customer accounts compromised and transactions to transfer money from customer accounts to somewhere else where the money disappeared. So there was a theft using a cyber attack. New Zealand Stock Exchange was attacked by a denial of service malware, and the New Zealand Stock Exchange went offline for 2 days, 2 full days. South Africa's largest credit bureau had a data breach. Canadian COVID-19 relief fund was targeted to steal money, and so many other incidents. What is also interesting is that a teenage hacker, Graham Clark, hacked Twitter accounts last year of famous people like Bezos, like Elon Musk, like Bill Gates, Obama, even Joe Biden's account during election was compromised. And as well as some famous entertainers and singers like Kanye West. Their Twitter accounts were compromised by this teenager asking for Bitcoin donations. That took the world by surprise, and Twitter was really put at a very disadvantageous position where its famous accounts were compromised. One Belgian bank ATMs were hacked at the same time, so 143, I think, or so ATMs were shut down for that bank on the same day. Spanish banks were attacked. 200,000 credit card data breach at a number of South Asian banks. These are only a few examples that happened last year. So you can see the magnitude of the cyber threat. One example, few years back, 5 years back, is the Central Bank of Bangladesh theft. This is an interesting case study because it is unresolved. 5 years later, we still do not know what happened. We have no details. The money has disappeared. Only one person was charged and brought to justice, and that person wasn't even the main culprit behind the heist. So the Central Bank of Bangladesh, which is the regulator of the banking system or sector in Bangladesh, had, based on reports, weak security infrastructure at the bank. So its firewalls, its processes, even network devices were outdated, and that was the entry level for the cyber gang. And malware was inserted in an email link and sent to an employee. So an employee received an email with a link. What that employee did is just open that link, and that link actually installed the malware inside the network. What that malware did, it was a very smart one, is tracked usernames and passwords, not only for that user, but for the entire users of that network. So it actually now knows this username has this password, this username has this password on that system. And this went on for a while until they gathered enough information. What they did then, the thieves they used this malware, and they had the usernames and passwords to use the SWIFT system, which is the money transfer system used by banks worldwide. And they have sent 35 transfer requests, 35 messages to the New York Federal Reserve. The New York Federal Reserve is the central bank of the regulator of the of New York and in the U.S. And what New York Federal Reserve does also is hold accounts for other central banks around the world that they would like to hold money in the U.S. in U.S. dollar currency. So the Central Bank of Bangladesh, like many other central banks, had an account there and had money there. So they've sent a request to the Federal Reserve, 35 requests asking for transfer, and the value of those 35 requests was 951 million US dollar. So it's around 1 billion US dollar. The transfer requests were to transfer money from their own account, from the central bank account held at New York Federal Reserve, to 4 accounts in the held in a Filipino bank in Manila. Now, out of the 35 money requests or transfers, most of them actually were declined for various reasons. Some messages were not properly formatted. Some messages were sent to a beneficiary account in the Philippines where that beneficiary name sounded like someone in the sanctions list. Hence, it wasn't processed automatically. It went into a queue for authorization. So most of those 35 transfer requests were not processed. However, 4 of them out of the 35, 4 requests were actually processed automatically. And the value of those 4 transfer requests was $81 million. So the attempt was actually to steal 951 million, but they got away with 81 million, which is still a big money. That $81 million went to 4 accounts that were opened at RCBC Bank in the Philippines. RCBC Bank is a reputable bank in the Philippines. Actually, if you Google it today, they would claim that they're the best digital bank in the Philippines. What happened is that at a branch in Manila of this bank, 4 accounts were opened prior to this incident by 2 Chinese nationals. His residence was in China. The other Chinese the residence was in Macau, the island of Macau, which is like the Las Vegas of the East. The branch manager there at RCBC followed the procedure, opened the accounts, and she was told by the clients, the 4 accounts, by 2 people, she was told that there would be money received into these accounts. Now that lady, the branch manager, did everything by the book. However, when the $81 million was received at her branch, she did not report it as suspicious because the money is substantial. And hence, she is the only one who was charged actually in this whole crime. and she wasn't even charged by theft on account of theft. She was charged on accounts of money laundering. She's serving right now a jail sentence, but she's not the main person behind this. She claimed her innocence. Her colleague said she was threatened, that if she doesn't do this, her family will be in danger, but we never know. You can see now the interaction between the cyber gang and the real gangs that are operating in the real world. And that's really dangerous. Those four accounts, the 81, holding $81 million over a number of days, were then transferred internally within Manila using a remittance company, a local remittance company called Fulrem. And that 81 million was transferred to local gambling casinos. Now, during the investigation, some money was out of the 81 million was recovered. So one of the casino owners who was investigated paid back, I don't know the amount, few $1,000,000. He was never charged. He was released. The rest of the money just disappeared. And out of this entire heist, an investigation over 5 years, only one person, who wasn't the main person, the branch manager who opened the accounts, she's actually serving the jail sentence. Really dangerous, and this is a classic example. We never know what happened. I don't think we will ever know. Cyber forensics later in the game actually saw some of the fingerprints or cyber, in terms of cyber forensics, similar to the Sony hack that happened, which was done by a famous cyber gang called Lazarus. But again, and that Lazarus is connected to North Korea, but we do not know whether that's true or not. So in terms of security architecture, security is not one solution or product. So if there is a vendor today tells you buy my system or buy my services and this will protect you, that won't be true. It is not one solution or not one product. Security architecture is about people, processes, and technology. It is about building multiple layers of security. Not one layer, not one solution, multiple layers. And when you look at those layers, it is very similar to when you peel an onion or when you cut an onion. It is those layers that will protect the bank. And those layers must have the people, process, and the technology. The people actually is your weakest link, not the technology. So you need to have processes around that. Security is about mitigation. It's about dealing with threats and incidents. Threats are there, incidents will happen. It's not a matter of an organization thinking that an incident will not happen. It will happen. It is a matter of dealing with that incident and the ability to recover with minimal loss and damage. More details of a security architecture is in actually a framework that is available for cybersecurity, which is the NIST framework. Cyber defense now is moving towards active rather than passive. So active is actually about doing things proactively in terms of minimizing the threat. One of the ways is to create simulations, to create war rooms in coordination with national security agencies. So every country has a national security agency. In Oman, last year, His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq issued a royal decree creating the Cyber Defense Center in Oman. That is the National Security Agency for Cyber Defense. We also have CERT, which monitors incidents and threats around the world, but also with an active radar for the infrastructure in Oman. These are the national securities that different organizations and sectors need to work with. You need to have regular sector and nationwide drills. We do have that in Oman and elsewhere. We need to do more. These are drills for cyber attacks. Also, white hackers, these are professionals. They're available. You need to pay them. That's how they make their money. And actually, you pay them to penetrate your system and to hack into your system so that you can actually identify the loopholes. Threats intelligence is really important between different sectors. So sectors around the world, whether it's banking, whether it's healthcare, need to maximize on threats intelligence. So if a threat happens somewhere on a sector, targeting a sector, other players within that sector elsewhere in the world need to know immediately about it. And that happens through threats intelligence and community collaboration. Using artificial intelligence is the key now to track patterns, because cyber threats and incidents happen through patterns, algorithm patterns, and AI is better equipped than humans sitting and recognizing patterns within systems. Tracking stolen data, this is interesting, tracking stolen data on the dark web. So some organizations are actually doing this on the dark web, which is a layer of the internet which is not accessible to most of us. It needs separate codes and programming to enter that. Most of the bad stuff happens on that dark web. So there are ways and specialists to track that stolen data. And there are organizations also now, they're trapping hackers, so they copy the data, but it's not real data. It doesn't have actually any value. It's all, encrypted, but the hacker might think that data is the real data. They do that to trap the hacker, so the hacker comes and steals that data, and then they go and track him back to the source. But that requires a legal framework, because you're actually hacking back, and you need to find out whether your laws and regulations allow that. Social engineering is something, it's a fairly new terminology. It is really to do with emotions, psychology, our human trust. So people in nature, human being is trusty, has emotions, and social engineering works on that, utilizes those emotions, psychology, that trust to steal the identity. So when you say something like synthetic identity fraud, it is basically identity theft. Examples are phone messages that we keep receiving here in Oman on the mobile, asking for you to change your password, or for you to give your account info, your card number, etc. Telling you have won a prize. For us to transfer the money, please give us your account details, or something like a fake charity, or even a sales agent calling from even a neighboring country saying, look, we have a roadshow for flats and property. Please provide me with your name and email address, some basic information. Then they will take that basic information, they'll search on the net, they'll search on social media. You have posted some information about yourself. They will keep building that database about you, and eventually they will actually steal your identity. It is also very common that when you start interacting with someone you do not know on social media, that they will ask you to shift to WhatsApp. With WhatsApp, it's very easy to send you a link that can hack your phone. LinkedIn is a platform for professionals, and you hardly think that this is a platform that hackers will use, but they do. They will create a professional account within your domain expertise. Someone similar you can connect with, interact, share information on a professional level to begin with. But then that moves on to know more about you and your organization and get that information. If someone asks you for a password change or money transfer at a short notice, then something is wrong. These are indicators or red flags. So how do you protect yourself? Because protecting yourself is also protecting your organization. Never give password to anyone. Use strong passwords. Never use your date of birth. Use different passwords. I know this is a headache, having different systems or different accounts with different passwords, but actually it protects you. Only download from and transact with reputable sites, because some of those sites can easily be hacked, and your credit card information can be compromised. Never respond to emails, calls, messages asking for info. Your bank will never ask you for information about yourself, because your bank has your information. So, so if someone says, like, give me your account, I want to transfer money, this is your bank, that's not true. Be careful about what you share about yourself on social media. As I mentioned, you may get a call for basic information. They'll take that basic information, go on your social media, check more information about you, and eventually your account email can be hacked, your identity can be stolen. Never press on links that you do not know. Those links can be through an email, like happened with the Central Bank of Bangladesh, or it can be through your mobile. So many mobiles, even for famous people we know, have been hacked just by clicking a link on WhatsApp. Do not use public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi is available in malls and cafes. You can use them to browse for simple use on the internet, but never transact, never open your corporate account or share personal information using public Wi-Fis, because those Wi-Fis can easily be hacked. They're not secured. And always report suspicious transactions. With that, I thank you very much, and I hope you have a pleasant day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moosa, for joining us and giving us your valuable time today. Definitely, indeed, the presentation is going to go miles of knowledge for all our valued attendees. Thank you once again.